we are on another episode of the Vegan Good Life with Miyoko, and I am going to bring you a recipe today from Tuscany, a peasant dish using stale bread and tomatoes to make a luscious concoction called Pappa al Pomodoro, which I'm serving over some grilled vegetables. So let's get cooking. It's so wonderful to see you all again. The wind is a little crazy, so I'll be talking very loudly. We're going to start today by cutting up a bunch of tomatoes. You want the freshest, ripest tomatoes. I've had this dish in so many Italian restaurants in Tuscany, and every single version was slightly different. And so I actually watched as many YouTube videos, Italian YouTube videos, on this recipe and found that everyone makes it slightly differently. Some add broth, others do not. And some peel their tomatoes, others do not. So I think, there are no hard and fast rules. It all comes out delicious. We're going to start out with olive oil. And in every recipe, I did see everyone using a good amount of olive oil. And I'm going to add some garlic to this. Smash my garlic. I'm going to throw in the garlic whole. And we're just going to let the garlic sort of simmer and infuse the oil with some lovely aroma there. You can add more, you can add less. The two things that you absolutely must have are stale bread and tomatoes. And that is it. Some cooks add onion, others do not. So once again, the rules are very, very loose on how you make this dish. So you can make it with onions, you can make it without onions. I'm going to add these onions because I happen to have them. Add my onions to this mixture and saute that for a minute. Pappa al Pomodoro is a dish that's sometimes just served in a bowl if it's stewier and sort of eaten like a thick stew. Other times it's more solid and it's served over something such as grilled vegetables or something else. So today I've got some eggplant and some zucchini. We're going to grill those. And we're going to put the Pappa al Pomodoro on top of that. Now that the onions are nice and tender, I'm going to add my tomatoes. I've chosen ripe heirloom tomatoes, and I'm going to add about 700 grams. Now, it doesn't matter exactly what the weight is. The rule of thumb seems to be about half the amount of bread in weight. So if you're using, let's say, a pound of tomatoes, then use 8 ounces of stale bread. If you're using 2 pounds of tomatoes, use 1 pound of stale bread. So that's a really easy ratio to remember. Okay, now we're going to cook this down until it's a lovely sauce, and then we're going to add our bread. So we're going to let this stew for about 15 minutes or so until the tomatoes start to break down and release their juices. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of basil. If you want it spicy, you can add a little bit of chili pepper flakes or a whole chili. If you don't want it spicy, you can leave it out. Okay, so while this is breaking down, I'm going to grill the vegetables. So I've got an eggplant here. I'm going to make some nice steaks out of these. And I have a zucchini. I'll do the same. Nice, thick slices, half an inch or so. Just do a little crosshatch on these to help them cook a little bit. I love to grill vegetables with a little bit of acid, so like balsamic vinegar and olive oil. I forgot the balsamic vinegar, and you know what? That's okay. I'm just going to grill it with a little bit of olive oil. Keep it simple. I don't even have a brush, so I'm going to do this with my hands. This is the good life, and you kind of do what you can. Make it happen. That is what food is all about. Not everything has to be perfect. What has to be perfect is that we enjoy it, that it tastes good, that we're with friends, with family. So let's take these over to the grill and put them on the barbecue. Not the fanciest barbecue, hey, but it does its trick. You can see the tomatoes are beginning to break down, release their juices, looking saucier and saucier as each moment goes by. And when they break down a little bit more, we're going to add the stale bread. So fragrant and delicious looking. The tomatoes have sufficiently broken down. Just take a look at this. They've released their juices. It's turning into this lovely sauce. Barely ready. All right, so I'm gonna start adding the bread. I have the ends, I've got little bits and pieces. I'm gonna try to cut up the ones that are too hard or too big. And you want the bread to absorb all of that juice. Now, some people at this point add some broth or some water, and it's up to you how thick you want it. Add a little bit of broth to this to help the bread break down completely. You know, if you think about it, Italy probably has more recipes featuring stale bread than anywhere else. On another episode, I made mozzarella and panzanella salad, which is a stale bread and tomato salad. When I visited the Cilento region of Italy one time, they told me that traditionally they always bake at least 2 loaves of bread in their wood-fired ovens and lay that one completely dry out so that they can keep it and use it whenever they want, so it doesn't go moldy, and they would slice it and turn it into a different dish. This is a traditional present dish. The idea is that there's always going to be leftovers, and how do you reuse them? How do you turn them into something that's savory and delicious? Now, another thing about this dish is that it's a Tuscan dish, which means they use Tuscan bread, and if you've never been to Tuscany, you may not know that Tuscan bread doesn't contain any salt. That is what is traditionally used. I find it to be less flavorful. It's usually drier. So one region over in Umbria, they have good bread. Don't tell anyone in Tuscany that I said that. All right, these are looking a little better. Oh yeah, looking a little better. So when the bread starts to break down like this, what you're gonna do is take a whisk and just kind of mash it and try to make it as smooth and creamy as you can. What you're trying to do is remove any chunks of bread so that it's all sort of this one lovely mass. Some texture, obviously. You're not pulverizing it, you're not creaming it in a food processor or anything, but you just want this sort of lovely mass of bread suspended in tomato sauce. I'm going to give it a taste. A little more olive oil. And I'm going to get my grilled vegetables and we're going to eat. It is so soul satisfying. Pappa al Pomodoro takes me right back to those Tuscan hills. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you again on The Vegan Good Life with Miyoko.